About 28 months ago, I dropped out of school. I was studying to get into law. That was like my initial plan. Paysafe is this multi-billion-dollar fintech company. We started, one-to-one with the low-hanging fruits, and my CMO, Pierce Bourne, is the ex-head of sales at Narcity.
Welcome back, world, to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we have Lucas Béland. He is not your ordinary 21-year-old. He's a 21-year-old kid from Montreal, but he's doing crazy things. His company, Goloot, just raised $5 million. What was it, $5 million that you raised through VC?
So we raised a total of $5 million and recently closed a $3 million round in February. Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. So total $8 million raised.
It's a total 5 and 3 in February.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 and then another 3. So
that's correct.
21 years old, raised $5 million. I can't remember what I was doing when I was 21. I was probably playing StarCraft or something stupid. So Lucas, very excited to get you on the podcast. You will be the youngest guest on our podcast, so we're super excited. His company, they're doing some really cool things in the ad world. So we're excited to dive into that a little bit. But first, we always have a traditional shot of hot sauce. And Lucas, I just told you about a week ago that we are doing hot sauce. What do you have for us today? What have you prepared for us in terms of hot sauce? Yeah, let's do it.
This is a donation from my landlord, who certainly loves me as a tenant because he gave me the strongest thing one can find. I don't ever eat hot sauce, so I had to borrow. But this is Titanic, which is I believe is a pun.
Nice, Titanic. Okay.
Yeah, meant to sink your soul. And it's on the scale of mild to hot, according to that company, it's very hot, about 49% red chili. So
wow.
It's going to be quite interesting, especially for someone who's not in the hot
You're
sauce
not a hot
space
eater
at all. No.
Yeah, you're not a hot eater.
What are you having?
So I'm going with Tortuga Gordo, a producer out in Portland. And I'm making, I'm not having this. Sorry. I'm still having the same company, but this is habanero. I'm going to go a little light today, guys. Sorry. I've been doing way too much Carolina Reaper and it's been affecting my stomach. So I'm going to go light for today's episode. I'll go back strong next time. But yeah, I got this.
It's awesome.
Do a shot.
We start now with a shot. This is.
Yeah. So just pour whatever you feel.
Oh my God.
Got this.
Okay, gorgeous. It's not, I don't think a shot glass is the best format for this hot sauce because it's quite thick. It should be fine.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Cheers.
Like I need to give it like a minute to come down. Hold on.
Oh, really? Maybe just use your finger and dab it.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'm ready.
Maybe just use your finger and dab it.
This is not going to be good. Are you ready?
Should be asking yourself that question. Oh, really?
Oof. Okay, it gets stronger over time. Oh, okay. Holy smoke. It's actually good though. I should eat stronger every day. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
I am ready. Oof.
Okay. So the format
is it illegal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's legal. The format is we're going to be asking you a bunch of tough questions about surrounding marketing. We want to know the secrets. How did you grow your company? How did you grow to the point where you can raise VC capital? We're going to try to extract all the secrets and tools from you. And at any point, if you cannot answer, the light flashes. We have a special light here that flashes. And once that light flashes, it's time to take another shot of hot sauce.
Okay.
So we're going to be putting you on the hot seat. So first, let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about who is Lucas and what is Goloot?
It's two good questions. So Lucas is myself. I'm 21 years old from Montreal, Canada. I started the company about 28 months ago. when you're still counting the months, it's like it's the early days. It's a baby.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
about 28 months ago, I dropped out of school. I was studying to get into law. That was like my initial plan, or maybe that's the plan that my parents wanted me to follow. Either or, that was the plan back then. I wanted to become a lawyer, and I had been working on this idea, maybe starting at the age of 15 or 16, to kind of revolutionize and change the way us as consumers interact with digital advertising. So, take you back in time around 2016, 2017, I was playing Pokemon Go, like a lot of people back then.
Yeah.
And I don't know why in that specific game, but I remember very clearly for the first time kind of realizing that advertising as it exists today, banners, videos, pop-ups, interstitial ads, like all these traditional programmatic formats, they were just so annoying and so disruptive and so like irrelevant in my digital experience. And I never clicked on any ad ever in any mobile game context or on any website that I visited, content or fitness, whatever. Advertising was just always the odd one out. It was always the necessary evil on any app or website. And I thought, wow, this is such a missed opportunity in a $1 trillion industry that merchants only have these kind of old, boring, aging formats to interact with modern consumers. And I wanted to push the boundaries of that. And I started thinking about what would be a crazy, interactive, fun digital advertising experience. So from the age of 16 to about 19 years old, I did a few internships unpaid, one in Paris and then more in Montreal. Spent a lot of time talking to people in the industry and the tech world as a whole to kind of put together my idea. And finally just came up with the concept of, well, what if merchants could, instead of putting placements on an app, they could leverage their coupons, their gift cards, their promotions, whatever form of incentive that they have. What if they could leverage those to reward me for my in-app or on-site behavior? Like if I'm reading articles, I'm creating an account, I'm subscribing to a newsletter, or in a different context, I'm completing a level in a mobile game, I'm completing a workout, in all these moments of high engagement that remain on tap today, if I could plug in a merchant like Adidas giving you a 10% off reward for that behavior, and then allowing users to claim that reward with their email, SMS, Apple Wallet, sort of multi-touch, multi-interactions that users could have with the ad itself, I could change the narrative in advertising. So I came up with this concept when I was about 19 years old. And now 28 months later, it is what we do at Goloot. We're a team of 18 people spread across Canada. We have this unique interactive advertising experience that we power in a bunch of apps and websites. Our network is only publishing and content media publishers. So it's Narcity Canada, Narcity Quebec, MTL Blog, Elle Canada, Elle Quebec, Québécois Media here in Quebec, which is the third largest publisher in Canada, and soon many more, including in the US in Q1. So that's what we do in a nutshell, and that's who I am as well, very briefly.
Wow. So sounds like you already have some big publications that are using your software, which is very, very cool. When you raised your first 2 million, did you already have these kind of use cases and case studies created? You already started working with different publications, or were you pre-revenue, pre-client when you raised your first 2 million?
So we were pre-revenue and pre-commercialization too. So we were really pre-seed. And the way the story goes, because you bundle up these sort of fundraising stories into something so simple, but when you open the hood, it's incredibly complicated and twisted stories.
For sure.
But so what you see in the media is usually half of what actually happened, right, for these companies, including ourselves. So the real story goes like I raised an initial $300,000 Canadian from a very small group of angel investors that were all entrepreneurs themselves and founders of different companies, not necessarily in the tech space. Like they had different backgrounds. And as we started raising, we realized that we could raise more, and it creates this sort of FOMO, especially in small, tight-knitted, successful entrepreneur communities. They start talking to each other about what they're investing in, and they create hype for you. So the first 300,000 quickly turned into a lot more and more and more. And at some point, I met Joe Leonoff, who is the founder of PaySafe. PaySafe is this multi-billion-dollar fintech company, went public on the NASDAQ in 2000 and on the New York Stock Exchange in 2020 for, it was a $14 billion IPO. And Joel is the founder and CEO who stepped down recently. And he decided to invest $1 million. So that round just inflated and became a lot more than what we initially want, or I think at least thought it could be. And where we were,
and more than what you needed at the time, probably as well.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question because, we wanted to raise about 300,000, and then we started to talk to these entrepreneurs, including Joel himself, who was like, you're going to need a lot more capital to achieve what you want to achieve and build that kind of network that you want. It's extremely expensive. Technology is extremely expensive. Talent is ridiculously expensive. So if you want to be remotely competitive, you'll need more money than you think. And I think I was also limiting our own potential because it seemed like so much money already. $300,000. You can't even fathom the idea of getting 1.8 million as a 19-year-old founder. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So my brain wouldn't even go to that kind of size yet. And Joel sort of opened up this potential for us. So yeah, that's how it unfolded. But in terms of where we were, as I said, pre-revenue, pre-commercialization, and we had a few clients at the time, letters of interest, like Subway Quebec was one of them. We had these LOIs from customers that were willing to try it out and test it out. And that helped a lot, the narrative and the hype, because we had something to deliver on as we were raising money.
Yeah. It's amazing because when we're talking, I don't sense a 21-year-old, right? I don't sense that. Was it weird starting out? I mean, you're 21 now, but when you started raising, you were not even 20. Did you ever run into times where people didn't take you seriously when you were talking to them because you were so young? Or was that never an issue for you? Maybe talk to us about that.
It's a really good question. It's a question I get asked a lot as well, because, my age takes a tremendous place in any conversation or narrative. And sometimes it's even distracting from the actual content of what we're building. The age thing is very big. And I embrace it as much as possible. I think it's my biggest asset, and it's also my biggest challenge. So being 21 years old gives me this, number one, narrative and visibility. This podcast, for example, like, people like the story, and I think we try to promote the story and encourage other founders who are young, maybe insecure, to go and venture into that world. So that is my biggest asset. And a lot of people that I met were tremendously impressed about what I was able to achieve. I don't think I would have the same wow factor if I was 40 or 50 or 60. So it is a great asset. But then naturally it becomes a challenge because I don't have a lot of experience. Some people might question or doubt my commitment. Like, are you going to get distracted and go do something else or party all the time? And like, will you have the sort of rigor that it takes to be an entrepreneur? So I think people question that a lot, which forces you to double down on your execution. And at some point, proof is in the pudding. But then again, when I sit back and I watch our journey and I watch the criticism that I had, I think I realized every founder goes through some level of criticism. And whatever it is, I don't think any founder is taken seriously in the early days, whether you're Elon Musk or whatever, how you spell his name, or Lucas, or, whatever, in any vertical or industry. Some people won't take you seriously. That's just part of the game, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not age, maybe they'll criticize your gender. If it's not that, they'll criticize your experience. If it's not that, then it's your idea, or it's your team, or it's your execution, or there's always going to be naysayers.
Exactly. Yeah. The way you pitch, the way you talk, and beyond just like physical things, right? It's not just like your age or gender. It's like the way you talk, the way you pitch, the way you build code, the way you design. Everybody criticizes all the time. And I think at some point I just realized, hey, that's my thing. Like, being young is what they'll criticize. So let's embrace it and let's work on it. Let's work around it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So in a nutshell, you guys are an ad tech solution, and you help place kind of rewarding moments to reward users on certain platforms like the Montreal blog, like Elle Magazine. And you kind of reward their users for doing specific actions. That's kind of your technology.
Yeah, so the technology, exactly. It opens up a whole new advertising opportunity for these merchants where instead of just going for your traditional banner on Elle magazine that the audience won't really interact with, then you can use our platform to start rewarding their behavior and join them almost seamlessly in the user experience. It's this very native embedded advertising experience. We don't even call it a format. You won't ever hear me say that. It's like, no, we talk about experiences from start to end. So that's what we power for these media publications. And then merchants hop on board and use it as an acquisition solution. And we have about 30 merchants in our ecosystem today. They're mostly large advertisers, brands that you know, like Essence and Simons and Keurig and Lancôme and Clarins. Yeah.
Okay. So then there's two sides to your business, right? On the one side, you need supply, meaning you need you need websites, you need users, and on the other hand, you need demand. You need people that it's like sites that are willing to give rewards. I don't know if maybe I'm switching them. It should be the other way around. But there are two sides of the coin. Talk to us about the first side, which is these big platforms like Elle Magazine, like Montreal Blog. How did you acquire them? What's the acquisition channel for that?
So you're right. So Goloot acts as an ad network, right? So we're sitting in between supply and demand, basically. And we have to connect both. On the supply side, I think everybody, when you're building these kind of marketplaces and you're bringing two parties together, we started, one-to-one with the low-hanging fruits. And my CMO, Pierce Bourne, is the ex-head of sales at Narcity. So, hey, we had like this open door to Narcity Media Group, so Narcity Canada, Narcity Quebec, MTL Blog. So these publications we were able to get through our organic network. And then we just kept pushing from there, like going cold, door to door, and leveraging our network of angel investors as well, who were connected in the media space or advisors to get us the intros. So yeah, that was our initial approach. And we started looking into, is there something we can do that will bring us one to many? Is there something that will accelerate that or make it exponential, this sort of business development effort? And we then looked at SSPs, other so supply side platforms, other ad networks. But what we quickly realized is the industry is not shaped or designed to support anything like Goloot. We had conversations with Unity Advertising, we had conversations with MoPub, we had conversations with all the large ad networks, but they're so heavily invested in programmatic, first of all, bidding, which we don't do at Goloot, but they're so invested in banners, videos, pop-ups that for them to support a new, not even format, but experience is like trying to fit a square into a circle, or that maybe that's even possible. They're triangle or whatever into a shape, whatever the saying is. See, I'm a dropout, so shapes and geometry, whatever. It doesn't fit. And so yeah, now we're kind of back to square one. And 2 years into our journey, I would say that most of our business development to date is still through advisors and connections. It's a very small, tight-knitted community, the media landscape in North America. And what you start realizing as well is there's sort of aggregations of media. So there's large groups like A360 in the US, they own 30 publications. So if we sign A360, we have 30 websites using our technology. So you're not really going after, or like Bell Media in Canada, they own TSN and they own CTV and they own Nouveau, or Québécois, they own many publications. We're going after these sort of aggregators and already networks themselves that then push our tech into a variety of audiences and sites, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And with these kind of large opportunities, you can't just really get them through a PPC ad campaign, right? It's going to be through opening doors from your mentors and other well-known figures in the industry that you've been very lucky to have met, right? So those are your biggest channels then, right?
Yeah, and what's funny is the sort of MVP in early days of Goloot, we designed the technology to actually be a traditional HTML5 ad format that we were buying programmatically on MoPub. And instead of pushing a full screen, ad, we would push a Goloot ad that had different capabilities. That was like, you could add to your Apple Wallet, you could send to your email, and when you clicked on one of those links, it would basically open up a web page that would support the Apple Wallet, that would support the email send or email capture, because you can't do this natively on an ad. It's not possible. Ads are just links. So we had users click on different CTAs on the ad we bought programmatically, and then ship them to the web, where we could then get them to claim. And our goal was always, the programmatic ecosystem has so many limitations, but they are the gatekeepers to the publishers. So like, if we can get into a publisher, we could do everything we want within that square instead of pushing people out to some other place. So that was our early days, right? So we were indeed buying programmatically. We were just pushing a brand new format, and people were already excited by that. It was like Unity, when we had conversations with them, it was like, oh, like, you guys have embedded Apple Wallet into ad formats? Like, wow, nobody does that. And I'm like, yeah, we tried to. It's not possible, but we found a workaround with some sort of web-based experience. So it became clear and obvious at some point that we had to go direct and not go through the traditional PPC ad buying process. But we started off this way. That was our early days.
Wow. Yeah, because if you do that, you're just competing against the traditional programmatic guys, and you're not going to win against them, because they're literally doing billions and billions of dollars of transactions per day, right? Of these programmatic ad buys.
They set the rules as well, right? They set what's possible in terms of features and experiences. And surprisingly, 30 years into programmatic advertising, the features are still super limited. So that I think is our market opportunity. Is nobody is pushing the boundaries of what a banner means or what you can do with an ad. It's still the same thing as what people saw in the 90s. And that doesn't make any sense to us. And to our partners now today, of course.
So, okay. Audience listening are probably like, okay, this is great. You got all these great early relationships with mentors and networks.
Yeah.
If there are people listening that are in the B2B space as well, and generally B2B, especially if you're talking about B2E, like large enterprises, it's going to be tough to open these doors. What kind of what helped you build your network? You started very young as well, but what were some of the keys to success for you in building this large network of mentors that would open doors for you, and investors and all that? Like, what were some of your keys to success?
I think one of the things that people usually, I was even surprised myself looking at the development of B2E or B2B or very large enterprise, right? So you're thinking these large publications like Québécois and KOME, so El Canada, El Quebec, even Narcity, like these large groups, people automatically assume long sales cycles, complicated, difficult. But I think when you have a solution or any form of technology that actually meets demand and solves a real concrete problem, you can accelerate a lot of that process, and it becomes quite easy to sell to these partners. Like, we were very surprised as a company to nail down and to be able to lock down so early in our journey large publishers like this and go through their due diligence, red tape, and legal process. It's quite something to go through, but we were able to achieve this mainly not because of the connections, but because what we were selling, or not technically selling because we're an ad solution for them. So what we were offering them was actually solving a real concrete pain point. And that's still our main number one success today, is when we speak to these publications, it's not that difficult because they want it and we see and we feel demand. So I think that is a key to Goloot's success, and it's much more important than the connections themselves. Now, in terms of network, I don't think there's a secret recipe or there's, any magic. I started off very, very young. So people think of my journey as being the last 28 months, but it's been in the making for 6 years now for me. As I'll turn 2, it'll be a 6-year journey already. Just the last 2 years have been actual operations, but the first 4 years were just me knocking on doors. And from, my friend whose mom or dad was working as a banker, I met with them, and then they said, oh, I have a client that's in the space of tech. So I met with one guy who was a VP who introduced me to that girl who's his boss, who was that EVP. And I ended up meeting with some of the leading executives at Ubisoft Montreal. I ended up meeting with Rémi Racine, the founder of Behavior Interactive, a big Canadian game studio. I ended up meeting with people at Québécois. So just I took the time. I said yes to every meeting. I've been doing this for 6 years. And over time, networking is compound. Like you start off with this, as I said, the small low hanging fruits that might seem irrelevant, but these people 5 or 6 years later have opened up, Peter Thiel and all these tremendous entrepreneurs, right? So that's kind of what we did. I can't sadly give you a secret recipe, but I think our success is predicated on the fact that we are actually selling something relevant for the industry that accelerated everything on the B2E side.
Oh man, I love what you just said there. It's so true. When you're building up a network, it just takes time. And I remember my early days when I started podcasting 2 years ago. And I remember it was so hard getting just even one big guest, like a Best Buy, to come on. It took us 10 or 15 episodes, countless outbound messages and intros to get them on. And when we finally got PayPal on, then we got Best Buy on, and then we got KPMG on, and then Facebook came on. Like all these big companies came on. Now I'm starting a second podcast, this podcast here, which is a video podcast. And again, getting those views in the beginning were difficult. But once it starts, kind of snowballs, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I totally agree with it's just the same concept with networking. You're not going to be able to, find an ideal, your ideal target right away. No one's going to write a check for you after the first call, but you just kind of have to talk to numerous different investors, numerous different entrepreneurs, and then maybe you'll find someone, right? It just takes time.
And I think, the key is in networking, for me at least, has been to just, it's an active job. It's not a passive endeavor. You always have to be on, pushing, following up, and maintain a very healthy CRM or, whatever you're using, even if it's just an Excel spreadsheet. You need to be on top and very active and very aggressive. I'll give you the most random example, like the and he's A-okay, I'm sure, of me telling that story. The ex-VP of e-commerce at Adidas, his name is Prashant Ramesh, is today a very good friend of mine, a mentor as well. And I reached out to Prashant. He would tell you the same, probably a year and a half ago, cold on LinkedIn, as he was still working for Adidas, because now he's the head of digital marketing for Kobo on the Rakuten, so the ebook business. But I reached out to him when he was still at Adidas, and because I wanted him as a client, and he didn't reply. Then I reached out again, maybe 3 days later, read my message, didn't reply. And then a few months ago, he reaches out cold to me on LinkedIn. He goes like, "Hey, Lucas, I love what you're working on." And then I see this message on my phone. It's like 7 p.m. I'm working here at home. I just reply. I'm like, "Thank you, Prashant, would love to connect. When are you available?" And he says, "I'm available right now." Yeah. And he sends me a Google Meet link, and we just hop on a call, and I had to start pitching right there and then. But see, the fact that I reached out to him and connected with him on LinkedIn, and he was seeing our content, which we're going to, of course, talk about. He reached out to me at the point where he was leaving Adidas, and we started working together, and he's a friend, a mentor. I was at dinner with him not even a week ago. So it's just crazy how if you stay active, if you're pushy, people respect that, first of all. That's how you build these networks that maybe a year later will serve you tremendously. So
6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, doesn't matter, but you gotta open these doors. Even if it's a slight crack in between the door, one day that door might open. So
it's crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so just to recap, we talked a little bit about the supply side, the websites, the users. Now we're going to talk about the demand side, the sites that give you the actual rewards. Is that also a similar kind of format where you're partnering up with different agencies, or are you going direct to the merchants? What are some of these channels to get these companies that are willing to give rewards?
So we have about 10% of our client base, not even, it was maybe more than 10%, is direct customers. So we actually have the relationship with them directly, like Assignments, for example. It's been a customer of ours for a long time. We have a direct connection with them. Nude Sticks, the cosmetic company, we have a direct connection with them. So a bunch of our clients are actually direct, and we built those, some through inbound. We had PR, so they reached out to us. We had articles written about us in Quebec or Canada, and they then reach out. So inbound has been helpful, but some of them were connections through our investors, right? So anyway, that's how we got a small network of direct customers. The vast majority of our demand comes from agencies, and we don't work with typical agencies. We do work with the media classic agencies, but our bread and butter is the affiliate marketing agencies. So think of OPM Pros in Canada, think of All Inclusive Marketing, think of Gen3, SMB Global in the US. Like, this is our bread and butter of where we get most of our clients. And the reason why we work with agencies is because when we sat down with our CMO to look at our sort of mapping out our customers, we realized that if you look at both sides of the marketplace, very few companies have a relationship with Al Canada and have access to that inventory. So that's very difficult to achieve, and you need to have some form of magical recipe to be able to get there. But then you turn around and you look at the demand side, everybody has a relationship with Adidas. There's easily 9 agencies that work with Adidas today that have access to their CMO, and Adidas has about 25 people on their team doing media buys. So we thought, okay, it's going to be much easier to build demand. We probably could find 7 partners that work with Adidas and have all of them on board. And so we will focus most of our effort on the supply side and secure a few relationships with the right agencies. And then we will have overflowing demand, which is the case today. I mean, we have more demand than actual supply and more demand than actual rewards that we can distribute. And we just prioritize the best performing brands, or we scope them out later. Like, we're fully booked for Q4 already. We just push them out. So there's an unreal amount of merchants, unreal amount of companies that work with said merchants. So that's kind of our strategy today, is really these partnerships with agencies, specifically on the affiliate side. But it took us quite a long time to figure out that sort of recipe. No lies. Yeah.
And is it a 2-sided revenue model where you're getting a commission on both sides, or like one side you're getting like you're getting paid like a retainer or whatever, or click per I don't know, cost per click or cost per view, or on the other side is cost per usage of the rewards, or like how does it work?
So at this stage of our journey, our business model is quite simple. We just take money from the advertisers, so they pay us to run the campaigns, and we have it's a performance-driven model. That's also something that we pride ourselves with, is we don't just charge CPM and get you eyeballs, which I think is irrelevant from a return on ad spend perspective. It's an aging model. In fact, it's a model where publishers are in control, they charge CPM. But if you look at today's world and reality, publishers are not in control anymore. So merchants are looking to get closer to lower funnels, so they like to pay on performance. So we get revenue from the merchants, a mix of multiple fees, but it's mostly performance driven. And then we turn around and we actually share that revenue with the publisher. So for L Canada, it's 100% free to use my tech to start giving out the rewards. And I will have a rev share with them, varying percentages, of course. Now, we provide tremendous value to these publications, and they get to acquire first-party data because we can reward someone who creates an account. So we incentivize users to provide their emails and to actually log on to these platforms in a way that wasn't possible before. So the benefits are so overwhelming for the publishers that we're thinking, hey, there might be different monetization or rev share opportunities there that we need to venture into. But for now, our main and core value is really just providing value to our supply and to our demand side in any way we can. So it's maximizing the budget of the merchant, and then, of course, helping these publishers monetize. And if we keep doing that, it's an infinite success loop. So that's how we monetize for now.
Yeah. And just so the audience is aware, like one of the reasons why how we connected, I actually saw a lot of your content on LinkedIn, and we had a tremendous conversation a few weeks ago just around content. Yeah, talk to us about how content relates to your marketing strategy right now. I'm sure it's a very important piece, but talk to us a little bit about that.
Funny enough, content is part of our strategy and successful in our strategy because we never strategized around content and we never actually meant it in a way where it was going to be a strategy. And the way we actually started doing content is we were in a pandemic context. I had 5 employees for 4 employees back then, just a core team. So that's 2020. We're 18 today, right? So that was like a year and something ago. We had, as I said, 4 or 5 employees, and we went to do this photo shoot for the pitch deck, where we wanted to have everybody's face on the deck. And the company we hired, the agency we hired, that were good friends of mine as well, who were taking pictures, were like, you guys should just be filming everything, because your conversations and your journey as a startup is interesting in itself. And for them, in the perspective of, cameramans and just like photographers, they were like, what I'm looking at in the studio beyond the portraits is just fun and interesting to watch you guys go. So we put a phone down on a table and we just started filming. And I have a 45-minute footage on my phone of just that photo shoot. Nothing came out of it. But from there, it was like, okay, let's just film everything that we do all the time. And somehow, somewhere, this might be interesting for people. And we're going to post it on social media bits by bit. And even today, we have someone working is dedicated to content. All they do is it's multimedia, right? So they will also help us. He also helps us on like the branding and deck and like positioning side, but he is focused on content. But even today, we don't really strategize. We don't have a content pipeline for the year. We just like to film what we're doing, and we use that footage to create fun and interesting content. We do, of course, have more, our typical formats now. It got a little bit more professional, but that's how it started off. Like this is what kicked it all off. Just film because it's interesting in its nature.
And it's just more for okay, obviously it started off because it's fun for the team, but is it now actually leading to potential leads on either side, or is it still mostly for fun and branding and like company branding?
I think if you're not paying to promote content, it's very hard to just imagine how content can drive acquisition unless you're on TikTok. But then again, our direct audience, or like you're posting reels, which have kind of changed the game in social media, right? Marketing, where now you don't even have to pay to get eyeballs. So I think, but our audience isn't watching reels, or our audience isn't on TikTok.
No.
They are just, they're the CMOs or the head of product of these large publications. Like, we don't scale our marketplace on these platforms. So the way we see content, because we don't spend any money on promotion, we just look at content not as a way to acquire customers, but as a way to nurture our community and always remain top of mind. And it's unreal the number of clients that we acquire through other channels, whether it be like agencies or employees that we hire through other channels, or our publisher partners who, as we get on calls, they just talk to us about the content. I just saw your video. It was so funny, XYZ. We use content as a mean to stay top of mind, as a mean to nurture our community, as I said. More so than a way to acquire, which I think has been tremendously beneficial to Goloot, and cheap.
Yeah. So I advise an agency right now, and same thing. They started this series, not even series, but they started creating a TikTok channel and an Instagram channel and a YouTube channel, just making content around them playing fun games online. It was just for culture building, just because they had a team of about 5 young guys around your age, 20, 23, 22, 24 years old. And they just like to play games every Friday, and they started recording it. And the engagement is unreal there. I think they've grown to, in just 4 or 6 months, they've grown to over 300 followers, and regularly getting hundreds of impressions per video on the reels. And it's just other content creators who just like the fact that they play games. Is it leading to potential leads? Maybe not, but they don't calculate it that way as well. I think there are 2 separate channels. If you're just focused on acquisition, then you're talking about maybe paid channels, maybe affiliates. I guess you can use SEO as part of that acquisition channel. But then there's a huge piece called branding. And the branding piece is just as important, because that is how the public sees you. And that helps drive conversions for your paid. It helps drive conversions for your affiliates, right? It all kind of works together. but you can't really use your branding activity and say like, what's the CPA on that activity? Because you're probably not going to get any, right?
No,
so
and we don't even want to bring, and this might be counterintuitive to the content sort of narrative that's been pushed out, because content has become such a prominent part of any company's marketing strategy, and anything that happens in marketing gets consumed and loses its soul to data and performance and KPIs. Like, we lose the essence and soul of any advertising initiative. Even just the fun, creative Super Bowl ads, they lose their essence and soul to now data, eyeballs, KPIs, conversions, full funnel metrics. How do we go from OTT to e-commerce conversions? It's like people I feel like people lose the essence of what those channels are meant to be. And so we don't measure conversion, CPA, CTR. We don't put pressure on Michael, who works on our team, who's our sort of content guru. We don't put pressure on Mike to deliver likes or comments. We don't care. Because we want him to be creative, and we just post what we want to post, and we talk to our community the way we want to talk to our community. In the last 28 months, we spent $0 on promotion and acquisition. We have about 3,500 followers on LinkedIn. We deliver on a yearly basis maybe 250 to 300,000 impressions on our content every year.
Yeah.
And last year, at least, we probably delivered about 250 to 300,000 impressions on that content. We don't do anything to pay or promote, and we don't really care about those numbers as well. For us, it started off fun, and I'll try to make it fun for as long as it can be. And as long as I'm leading this company, that's what I want it to be. That's how I think we've been successful through content.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote a post recently, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this on this line. I wrote that you can't have an engaged audience without good content, but you can have good content without an engaged audience.
Absolutely.
And the key is that just focus on your good content. The audience and engagement will come afterwards. And if it doesn't,
I agree.
At the end of the day, you still got good content. And sitting on good content as the bedrock of your company is just as important as anything. So basically, just don't put pressure on your team. Yeah.
And I think if you start looking so much into data and stats, you fall into these false leads, which are basically, this post got a lot of likes or views on TikTok or went viral. And then you try to replicate the model. You're like, oh, okay, the format works. But that's not how viral effect works. Like, that's not how Gen Zs and consumers think. They didn't like the format. There was something about that place and time and that sparkle and magic that just made it work. And the way I believe you're most likely to get a second or third or fourth viral video, quote unquote, is not by repeating the format, but by just continuing to be authentic with what you want to post, being creative. Most of them will flop from the perspective of data and performance, right? They'll flop, quote unquote. But I think big corporations, because they're so used to this, as I said, everything loses its soul to data in today's world. We don't allow creativity to just be creative. It has to lead to any form of performance. And I think that's the biggest mistake we can make. I even have a TikTok account for myself. Like, I started a TikTok account. I have 9 videos. I have 20,000 followers, maybe 1.5 million views on that TikTok account. I posted 9 videos that I wanted to post. I didn't just like follow a formula. And one of those videos went viral, and then 2, 3 went viral. And that's all, that's what happened. That's how we look at content. That's how I look at my own personal brand. I just post whatever comes to mind. I don't follow a schedule. I'm not rigorous. And I think that's a big key. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Where do you think you got this? Where do you think you got this philosophy on content? Was it just over time creating content, or is it through mentors, or it just seems like you've been doing this, like, from our conversations, I've been doing this for like a few years now, and we're kind of thinking very similar. I'm just curious where you got this philosophy from.
I think, a lot of our investors and sort of stakeholders weren't excited or thrilled about the content. For them, it doesn't lead to anything. And I think most people don't actually understand, as I said, and we were discussing, the purpose of content. So we wanted to avoid making it seem like it was a distraction more than anything else. Like, get back to building the product. Like, that's what you hear from like your board members. Like, just get back to building the product. Content's irrelevant. So it didn't come from our investors and mentors. No, I think we're just a young team. My CMO is in his very early 30s, but he should be in his 20s. And Mike, who runs our content and is our content guru, he's also in his late 20s. So we're a bunch of millennials and Gen Zs that just produce content that we wanted to watch. And we have memes in our content. We're a B2B advertising company that works with the large media publications and have Keurig as a customer. But our content has memes. We have like Breaking Bad GIFs and memes in our content because that's how we want to be spoken to as consumers. And we just followed our instinct, I think. And what a blessing to have that perspective as a young millennial Gen Z consumer. That has been incredible to us. And we realized that it resonates with everybody, regardless of age, gender, generation. Everybody kind of likes that format. So yeah, that's where it comes from. I don't have a more sophisticated answer than that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, unfortunately, we're almost just about to the end of this episode. But before we end off, let's talk a little bit about. Tell us a little bit about where Goloot is heading over the next 6 to 12 months. Like what can the audience look forward to? What big things are coming up in the horizons?
It's such a good question. So we keep expanding our presence in the Canadian market. So we will be releasing more publications, large ones that and sadly I cannot speak of those because they're not live. These are confidential contracts, but we have a lot of big publications beyond the ones that I mentioned that will be using our technology. So we're super excited about that. In Q1 of 2023, we'll be probably towards the end of Q1, we'll be bringing our tech to the US with our first partner in the US. So that's super exciting as well. It opens up a lot of inventory for our merchants as well. So a new audience, new acquisition opportunities. So we're extremely excited to bring this to the States where there's a lot more scale opportunity. And also we'll be raising additional capital. I think one of the important narratives is to continue funding our innovation, continue building our network. What we do matters and is important to our customers. And we want to find the right financial partners on that journey. So keep an eye out. You can, of course, follow us on social media to see some of that or content that we put out. They're quite funny videos. So you can do that. And you'll also be kept informed that way of our raises, our successes, our failures, where we're going in the US, Canada, and beyond. That's the short 6 to 12 months journey for Goloot, and it's one hell of a rodeo.
That is amazing. Well, there's the light. Let's do one last shot of hot sauce just to end it off. And I
Beautiful.
think you're gonna do a light dab. I will do something easy as well.
Oof. This hot sauce is actually really good. I might steal it from my landlord. This is really good.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. Oof.
Oh.
Did you take the hot one or?
I don't know. I think I did by accident. Oh man. It is spicy.
What does it get spicy after? Oof. Oof.
All right, Lucas, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Yeah, no problem. And our birthdays are very, very close to each other. So let's maybe one of these days we can connect and maybe do some hot sauce and just chat about content. I think you're very wise for your age, and
thank you very
would
much.
Love to follow along your journey.
Let's celebrate in person as soon as possible. And thank you for having me. This has been a great talk.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers, man.